Welcome to Handmade Happenings. I'm Marissa. This video is a guide to PDF sewing patterns. So first up, in case anybody doesn't know, what are they? These are a digital product, meaning that after you buy one, instead of getting a paper copy in the mail, you will be most likely emailed a link which will take you to where you can download your files. This is typically a PDF file, hence the name. And once you've downloaded the file, then you are responsible for printing it out yourself. So I like these for quite a few reasons. And these patterns do typically have better instructions, both in the detail and the written instructions, as well as in the pictures that accompany it, because it's usually done almost like reading a blog post with detailed colored pictures, which I think are possible in part because the seller is not having to print them off. Additionally, with having them printed onto computer paper, the pattern pieces themselves are more durable. And if you do happen to wear out a piece or lose one, then you always have the digital file that you can just go on and print that piece off again. Now, when I started buying PDF patterns, I was mostly buying them off of Etsy. And if you're doing that and you see a pattern that you want, I would just recommend checking the reviews both for the shop and if they have any for that specific item, just to see what people think about it before you buy it. However, over the years, I have stopped buying PDF patterns on Etsy for the most part, except for a few things, and have started buying a lot of them through various independent websites. And the way I have found these sites is mostly through different sewing YouTube channels or newsletters or blogs and things like that. But I am going to share a couple of my preferred sites to buy from. I will link all these sites in the description. This is not sponsored. I just like their products. So the first site is Peony Patterns. They have girls' dresses, both for like young girls as well as baby patterns, some hand embroidery patterns, and dolls as well. And they do, it seems like mostly a lot of dresses, which is probably why I like their site so much. And they actually do sell, a couple of free patterns, which is nice because that allows you to try it out. And the next site is Violette Threads, which is another one that's a lot of dresses and stuff, but they do have a larger size range. So they do baby, girls, tweens, and ladies. And a lot of times what they'll do is like one style, and they'll do it in all of the size range that they have. So this next one is Thread Theory, and they actually do both PDF or printed patterns, as well as selling other sewing notions and stuff. I've only ever bought one pattern from them, which is the Fairfield button-up shirt, and it's very detailed. But basically they are on here because they do have a nice range of men's patterns. This other shop is called Peekaboo Pattern Shop. I originally found them on Etsy. I think they do have their own like independent site as well. I particularly like this pattern here, which is the Cape Cod shirt, to do for boys if I'm doing something like with a really fun print and just want something simple. Additionally, I have gotten a lot of like the infant type patterns on here, like onesies, sleepers. And the last one is Children's Corner Store, which I have mostly bought their printed patterns with them. I don't buy their digital very often, but they do have them, and frankly that's where most of my boy patterns that I do come from, because I really like the heirloom style. But they do have the digital if that's your preference. Purchasing your pattern should be pretty straightforward if you've ever bought anything online, so I'm not going to really talk about it too much here. But once you've purchased it, you have to download your files. Now, this is going to kind of depend on the site that you order it from. So I'm going to start with Etsy. If you shop on Etsy, then when you log into your account, there should be like a button up at the top that when you scroll over it will say your account. And then you want to click on that and a little menu will open up under it, and you want to click the one that says purchases and reviews. And by the way, this is just how they have it set up right now. It could change. Once you hit the purchases and reviews button, it will take you to literally just all of your previous purchases. You'll find the one with the pattern that you're wanting to download. If you've just done it, it should be right on top. And then there will be a button to the side that will say download files. Click on that and it will take you to a page that shows you any of the files that you can download that are associated with that purchase. Now, depending on the company, that could just be one file, in which case it's really easy. You just click the final button that says download. Some companies, however, do offer a couple of different formats for printing. So they have the PDF file, which is for printing at home. It's just the only thing I'm going to talk about. Some will also have a file for taking to a print shop and having them print it. And occasionally there will even be ones that will have a file for a projector. So you just have to kind of read the names of the files. A lot of times it's in there, kind of like in the title of the file, what it's for. And most of the time, the one for printing at home is right on top. Now, if you're ordering from a site that isn't Etsy, I would suggest starting an account with them, because then it will most likely be very similar to what I just described with Etsy. You'll log into your account, you'll have a page for your past purchases, and most likely on there somewhere a button for downloading them. If you don't create an account with the company, then you will have to rely on the email that they will send you after your purchase. So they'll most likely send you one with your receipt and one with the link for your files. And then basically you just find that email, open it, follow the link, and download. So to find that, you're going to come down to your File Explorer and open it, and there should be a tab or folder marked Downloads. Click on that, and most likely your pattern is on here somewhere. This is the one that I'm going to demonstrate with, because it's one of Peony Patterns' free ones. So here's what the pattern looks like once it's open. A lot of them are laid out similar to this. So there's a picture of the pattern, table of contents, lots of charts. Here's the one for the fabric requirements. We'll also usually have a size chart and a chart for telling you like which pages you need to print according to size, and then like either the pattern pieces or like the view of the pattern. So like, for example, if I was doing this one, I would need the front and back waistband for whatever size, and then I would need to pick, do I want the mini length or the vintage length? And then it tells you like what pages you need to print accordingly. And for some, like this one is mostly all rectangles. Sometimes they will also give you like the cutting size, so that instead of printing it out, you could just cut your rectangles to the appropriate size for those pieces and save some paper and ink. Then you get into all of the instructions. This part you don't have to print off. I rarely do. So then let's get down to the actual pattern pages. This is what they look like. So it is a multi-size pattern. All of them will be on the page. And if you print like in this is in Internet Explorer. So for this, to print it, you're going to come up to print and then select your pages. So we'll just say 30 to 34. And you need to make sure that the size that it's printing at is actual size. So a lot of computers will default to print to fit or fit to printable area. And what that's going to do is change the size of your pattern. So it'll either make it bigger or smaller. Either way, it's not going to work. So you want to make sure that this is switched to actual size or 100%. And then you just hit print. So that's one way to print your pattern. That is the most, I guess you could say, straightforward way. However, it is a little frustrating because you are using a lot of ink to print off all of those sizes. And for me, what I used to do with that is I would print off the largest size and then I would just trace it for smaller sizes. However, tracing like that is a bit inconvenient. And again, if you only need a certain size, it just feels like such a waste of ink. So there is another option, and that is using Adobe Acrobat Reader. Now you will have to download this, and I do know that there is a free version and a paid version. This is the free version, so you want to make sure that you're downloading the right one when you do this. I think the first time I did it, I literally just Googled how to do it. So once you have that downloaded, you can pull up your file again, and what you want to do so that you open it in Adobe is scroll over the file you want, right click, and then open with Adobe. So now that it's in here, make it bigger. Over here, there is this button that is, I'm not sure what you want to call it, but my thing is on top of it right now, and that is the layers button. If that's not there, then this whole thing doesn't apply. You're going to have to print all of the sizes, because there are a few companies that don't do it, but most of the ones that I've seen do. So you want to click on that, and it will say layers, and then you'll click on this, and it's going to show all of these numbers and boxes. And what it is each number is a size, and it has the eye over here, and that's what turns on or off the layers. Say I want to print a size 10. I want to leave that one checked on, so you see that little eye, that means it's visible. But I want to turn it off on all of the other sizes, so. And you can see as I do, the sizes disappear. So this way you can print off whichever size or sizes that you want and get rid of the rest. Now there are these down here which are marked do not uncheck, so you always leave those on. And then after that, it's basically the same as before. You want to hit print. It does come up a little different, so you switch pages to whichever pages you want to print. This one actually does, I think, leave it on actual size, but if it's not, if it's on like shrink over size or fit or whatever, switch it to actual size. Make sure it's not printed on both sides of your paper, and then you can hit print. Here I have a pattern that I have printed off, and you can see this is the test square. So just to make sure, you can always double check with the ruler to make sure it's right. And to assemble the pattern, what you're going to do is, you see they have these marks here that are usually numbered or labeled or something. And you want to match them up with the ones on the other pages. So this is the rough outline of how it comes together. And what I usually do is I like to remove one long side and one short side of the piece. And then for this one, it would be this long side. And I technically don't need to take off this short side, but if I was doing a larger one, I would. So I'm going to do that here. So I remove it like that. Then I overlap this short piece over that excess. Line everything up and tape it down. I usually tape over that mark. And I like to use kind of the pattern itself as a guide. So I'm going to tape one kind of up here in the realm of the edge of the pattern. But I'm not going to bother like taping anything up here. What I used to do is I would tape at the ends, and what would happen is as I was cutting it out, I would just cut my tape off and then everything would be hanging loose. So that's obviously not a good idea. Then for the second row, I'll do the same thing. And the way I like to do this is kind of to go one pattern piece or one page at a time. So like if this was a bigger, I would go all the way across a row, and then I would start on the next row by adding each paper as I go. I wouldn't create two rows and then try and line up the rows. I just find that's more difficult. So line this up, tape it here at the end of the pattern. Sometimes I'll do one right in the middle. I'm going to wait on this one until I get all 4 pages crossing. So I have this piece and it just goes under all of them. So I want to line it up as best I can before I tape it. So usually where everything crosses, I try to put a piece of tape right in the middle of that to hold them all together. And once the whole pattern piece is together, I can just cut it out. And you can see at this point it is cut out and can be used just like any other pattern. And to store a lot of my patterns, but mostly my PDF ones, I do use these plastic file envelopes. I got them off of Amazon. I'll try to find something to link in the description. And what I do is I just fold it this way. And then down like that to store inside of my envelopes. And what I'll do if I have multiple sizes is I will paper clip all of the pattern pieces for one size together and then store all of the sizes in the same envelope. And that is my guide to PDF patterns. I hope this was helpful. I know some parts are a little more vague because it really does depend on the company and how they do things. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments and I will do my best to answer them.